Starting with Will County economic conditions, this is just a quick touch point to set the table. But again, population 708,000. I'll talk about that in a minute. Gross regional product continues to be led by our manufacturing sector. They are about 17% of our economy overall, and lead a strong footprint for us. I do want to say, though, before I get into the Will County economy update, we're very mindful of what's happening nationally and sort of the environment that we're operating in today. The latest information on the economy, let's be candid, it's mixed, right? November, ADP payrolls took a hit. Private sector payrolls fell nationally. Small businesses took the brunt of that. Layoffs this year are more than 150% of what they were last year, right? We're seeing these challenges at the national level. Frankly, if you're in the business of data center development, pharmaceutical facility development, you're going to tell me how much you're booming, right? How great things are. If you're in agriculture or if you're a manufacturer that's been affected by tariffs, you're going to tell me how lousy it is, right? There's a lot of mixed signals at the national level, and I'm going to say this again at the end. No matter the weather at the national level, no matter the changes that take place in federal and industrial policy, Will County remains competitive. We remain strong. Our deal flow this year is almost exactly on par with where it was last year. The names change, the project changes, but this place continues to be competitive for a lot of reasons, and we'll talk about that. And I do want to say at the same time, at the national level, there's bright spots too. Construction in new manufacturing in America is as high as it's ever been right now. New initial unemployment claims for November were the lowest we've had in 3 years, right? Mixed, but here has been solid, and if I might say, a little boring. Like you might get bored. I'll be like, oh, this is good. That's great, right? It's been quite good for us at the local level. And I want to start with population, just growth of people here in Will County. Will County's led the state the last 5 years in terms of population growth. And I do want to say the collar counties have added 44,000 people in that time. Northeastern Illinois continues to be a growth powerhouse, right? You hear these narratives about Illinois. You hear the challenges that some parts of the state face. Admittedly, rural areas in Illinois and in other parts of the country continue to struggle with population and retaining them. Not this place, right? Northeastern Illinois continues to grow and expand, and I'm delighted to report that Will County is at the head of that. I love Will County superlatives just as like a general conversational piece. Number one in population growth in the state right now. Still number one in jobs. Some of you have seen a slide just like this before. As long as we're number one, I'm going to keep updating it and putting it out there, right? Will County number one in the state of Illinois for job growth. Y'all, it's not close. This is measuring from right before the start of COVID, right? No, I don't get to count from the dip. That's cheating, right? From where we were to where we are today. Number one by a very large margin. And that has so much to do with the people in this room. So thank you for that. Manufacturing jobs, also incredibly strong in that time. And I want to be clear, not everybody is doing this, right? Will County manufacturing jobs up nearly 10% over this time frame. Nationally, it's down 0.4%. Manufacturing still the largest sector of our economy, still pays more than $80,000 a year in wage on average, very strong for the region. And when I say not everybody's doing this, I want to be clear. A lot of you have heard me talk before. You know I like to take shots at Indiana every now and again. And if there's anybody here from Indiana, thank you for being here, but also it's coming. I always hear how we're competing with them and we're not winning. This is more jobs in manufacturing than any county in that state added over this period of time. In fact, they lost 22,000 manufacturing jobs over that time. when we talk about competitiveness, and I talk about Northeastern Illinois, it's not just a narrative. It's not just me taking a guess at it. The data supports it, and we continue to perform well in that space. And also, Indiana bad. I'm actually not that sorry about it, if anybody hears from Indiana. Will County unemployment. I put this chart in here. Look, I know this isn't exciting. Unemployment, 4.4%, the latest data. It's low. It's continued to be low. But I wanted to share some historical perspective here. This is a 25-year chart, right? You've got the weirdness of COVID, but if you go back to through the 2010s, we had adjusted to what was a slightly higher unemployment rate, largely on par with the state and with the nation. And what I want to say here is with some of the bumps I talked about that are out there at the federal level and some of the changes we see and maybe industry investment rotation, we anticipate this might go up a little bit, but we'll call that normal for the time being, right? So we've set some different expectations over the years. I just want to say this remains incredibly, persistently low here in Will County. And as time goes on, that may adjust. It's not a panic point. This was a huge panic point for me. Will County's labor force during COVID dropped dramatically, and it took us a long time to come back up to where we were. I'm very excited to say that today, our labor force for 2025, it's the biggest it's ever been. There's a little nugget in this, though, right? Because when we haven't added that many people in that much time. So what is this? And it actually has to do a little bit with some aging in the county. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But this is something I'm very, very happy to see this here. We're performing well in that space as well. Before I talk about a little bit more about like where we are in jobs in Will County, I do want to say U.S. job openings by month. We track this because I think it's an important indicator at the national level. We are still in an elevated space here, but nowhere near where we were. This got goofy. For those of you trying to hire, right? I'm showing a lot of favoritism to this side of the stage. Hold on. For those of you trying to hire out there, it was a rough couple years, right? And what we're seeing is a little bit of normalization in terms of where the labor force is. We're no longer in a position where it's 2 open jobs for every 1 unemployed person. It's a little bit more stable. That said, this is jobs at a national level. Peaked a couple years ago, been coming back down. This is Will County. So Will County, during that time frame, came down a little bit, but has actually picked back up again in 2025. This is job openings in Will County. We are at, I want to say, 6,170 on average. That's how you know a guy does his own research, right? 6,170. But 6,170 jobs on average every month in Will County being posted. That growth is super exciting for me, and it's strongly supportive of continued job growth in Will County. There's 6,170. That's actually right. Cool. But well above our pre-COVID averages. Right? Jobs overall in Will County, way up. This is a look back to 2016 to today. We've added more than 40,000 jobs in Will County. And I can tell you that right now, there are more Will County residents in the workforce. There are more jobs in Will County, and there are more Will County residents working than at any time in our history. And to be candid, it's not particularly close. We continue to grow in this space, and that's exciting. It stands to reason that if a lot of people are working and feeling pretty good about themselves, they're spending a lot of money. Will County retail sales continue to be very, very strong. I'm going to talk about retail real estate in a minute, but I have to say, like, we got this big bump, and then it's sort of flatlined. The last 4 quarters of retail spend are almost $14 billion. I'll take the bottle, Kayla. Thank you, Kayla, for recognizing my shortcomings and noticing the voice wasn't working. But almost $14 billion in retail spend in the last 4 quarters in Will County. Unbelievable growth. I mean, just staggering. So thank you for coming here and spending money. Anytime I have somebody come to town to visit, it's always thank you for being here. Please spend a lot of money. They have. So for those of you joining your teams from out of town, spend a little before you leave, please. We like that. A little bit about real estate, which is it's a big part of what we do. And I'm going to start with industrial, and I'm just going to tell the truth. Industrial has had its worst couple of years in Will County in 15 years. Right? I talked about this previously. The increase in interest rates really pulled down on industrial growth in Will County. That should not be a big surprise to anybody. But we look at 2025, 3 million square feet of industrial space delivered in Will County. So these are finished construction projects that come on the books. Lowest number since 2012. Right? And you can see it was pretty anemic back then in the 2010s. Leasing. Look, still a big number. We're 10.8 million square feet year to date in 2025, but it's our lowest since 2011. Right? I'm going to submit to you these two metrics might actually be a good thing. For the developers that are in the room, a lot of you lived through the post-financial crisis industrial market, where there was a lot of build-out, a lot of growth, and a lot of empty buildings. Right? It was an expensive mistake that a lot of people learned. I can tell you, industrial vacancy in Will County, while up a little bit over last year, right now 6.9%, and I've got to say, well below historic averages, well below the averages of the good times. Vacancy has stayed relatively low, and I think as developers climb back into the market, we've got about 5 million square feet under construction right now. There's a strong argument to be made they timed this well. They did a really good job and left our market balanced in a way that I think is very important for us as we look forward to continued growth. So, yes, rough couple years for industrial, but I think there's a lot of reason to believe that was the right move. I see a couple of brokers shaking their heads. Thank you. I think I'm right about that, but I might just be making it up. Office in Will County continues to perform very well. Vacancy in the office right now, 6.7%. Unsurprisingly, there's not a lot of office being added. The whole MSA has got about 1 million square feet under construction. It's a 500 million square foot market. So there's not a lot of new movement in office, but Will County has performed particularly well. Our space is not the biggest. We're about a 14 million square foot office market here in Will County. But I want to point out, COVID came, work from home came, COVID went, work from home stuck around a little bit. Not a lot changed in our office space. And I realize this does not fit the narrative that you've been hearing, right? But what we found is these smaller leases, these smaller footprints, people are still hanging on to them. It's still performing well. Look, for my partners from around the Chicago region, I apologize for putting this slide up. This is not your fault. But this probably fits your narrative a little bit better. Red line is the entire Chicago market and office vacancy. We're a little under 17% there. The vacancy continues to persist in the large office markets around the region, and I think ultimately this is going to drive a lot of change in real estate throughout the Chicago area and other urban areas. It's not unique to Chicago, but this is something that is quite real. We've been enormously fortunate. Thank you to those of you who are staying in your spaces and continuing to show up for work in Will County. Retail's out of control. What an amazing star of a market retail has been for us over the last couple of years. I mentioned the spend earlier. Vacancy is still, this is about as low as it has ever been in Will County. And this is probably a bigger space than you think it is, right? Will County retail is about 2,500 buildings, 37 million square feet of space. And the reality is we are largely full in retail to the extent that, weirdly, we're building retail in Will County. This is fascinating to me. And I don't know if I would have ever had the opportunity to say what I'm about to say to you. The entire Chicago MSA, including our friends in Northwest Indiana and Southeast Wisconsin. Add it all up, there's about 1 million square feet of retail under construction right now. Will County's got 40% of it. Will County is the largest retail builder in the Chicago region right now. Right? And that is extraordinary. And I'm going to tell you, Plainfield, our friends in Plainfield, are out front and leading the way in that space. Folks, retailers are the most powerful players in the building market right now. They are. They command your attention because people want retail in their communities. Right? If you have the right formula, the right combination of residents, income, growth, retailers will come to your door. I am not at all surprised to find that Plainfield, which I failed to mention earlier, number one single-family home builder in the state. Will County's number one, Plainfield's the number one community. They took their crown back. But also building diverse housing stock, right? Single-family, multifamily, townhome. I'm not at all surprised to find that that is the place where retail is growing. When we talk about how we develop communities, it begins and ends with people. Right? And so I'm super excited about this number. I triple-checked it. I know Hannah's in the room, who I always fear from a data standpoint. She's fabulous, but I'm pretty sure it's right, Hannah. And amazing job, Will County, to be out front, the leader in new retail in the Chicago region. Housing. Speaking of Will County superlatives and numbers that I will keep updating and throwing at you as long as they are true, Will County remains number one in single-family housing for the state of Illinois, adding 7,000 units over the course of the last 5 years. This is just 2025 to date. That'll be a little bit bigger when we're done here. And you might be wondering, like, hey, that's cool. Is Pryor about to get on his housing soapbox again? Yes, he is. Yes, he is. First things first, though, all those homes, we continue to grow our share of single family in the state of Illinois. It dipped a little in 2023 because somebody actually beat us. And you will note, I didn't call them and say, yeah, you got us one year. We took it back the last couple of years. The last 2 years, more than 20% of all single-family homes built anywhere in Illinois were built in Will County. That is our highest share of the state's total that we've ever had. And I want you to think about that. We are about 5% of the state's population, but a fifth of the single-family housing is being built here. Spoiler, it's not enough. We continue to grow. I cannot talk about single-family housing without talking about the other side of the equation, multifamily in Will County. We are continuing to be dominated by our peers in the Chicago region when it comes to multifamily building, both in terms of sheer numbers and, to me, more importantly, mix, share of total building that's happening here in Will County. This is share of multifamily over the last 5 years through August of 2025 in just us in the collar counties. Will County continues to be well behind our peers. About 18% of all of our building has been multifamily. Mix matters when it comes to the housing space. And before you tell me, well, we just don't have a market for it. The little text box. 2025 vacancy is at 4.5% multifamily. That is the lowest on record. And let me put that into perspective for you. If you're renting a multifamily unit, that means pretty much somebody moves out every 2 years, right? The unit stays vacant for a month and then fills again. That's the kind of vacancy we're talking about. It's barely covering turn rates on these properties. Moreover, we're behind on build. We have a lot of catching up to do. I mentioned previously, Will County has grown, still growing up, still adding in this space. Countywide, we've got about 23,000 multifamily units. Lake County, Illinois, almost identical to us in population. We have 23,000. They have 42,000. DuPage County, 28% more population than us, sure. 83,000, right? Both of those are higher income communities than us, might I add, right? Multifamily does not necessarily mean you sacrifice the income profile of a community to build it. Kane County, sorry, John, which has a third fewer residents than us, is still ahead of us in this space at 26,000 units. We're behind. We have to catch up. If we care about adding quality of life elements to this community, we need to talk seriously about diversification of housing stock. If we want to talk about opportunities for people to join our community, we need to talk about diversification of housing stock. If we want to talk about opportunity for people to age in place, I have 2 grandmothers in Will County communities. Finding places for them to age in place was tough, right? We want to talk about aging in place in Will County. We have to talk about diversification of housing stock. We will talk more about this in a minute. The inventory we do have, still hard to come by. This is just Will County home inventories. The red line is where we were before COVID. Still, with people starting to loosen up, people starting to list homes, a little bit of pressure off rates, we're continuing to struggle in this. And of course, home sales are down as a result. I mentioned, again, if you're in certain industries, you're doing well. Certain industries, less so. I think you talk about retail home sales. It's been a slower couple of years for us. It's just we don't have the stuff. Even with building all that new multifamily or new single family, we're not yet meeting the demand that's out there in this space. And of course, if there's not enough stuff and people want to buy the stuff, prices go up. Unsurprising probably to anybody, Will County housing prices are up about 45% since 2020. This year, the median home sale in Will County is approaching $360,000, right? So we continue to see that price rise. This doesn't surprise anybody, right? We all know about this. The thing you might not realize is we have, over the last year or so, also crossed the standard affordability threshold. I do want to be clear. Will County is not as unaffordable as some other places, both in the region and around the country. We've been competitive. But this is a stat from the Atlanta Fed. They say 30% of your median household income can be applied to housing. That's affordable, right? And they build everything in, taxes, interest, the whole thing. We've crossed that threshold over the course of the last year or so. This is a combination of factors, right? This is partially about rates. It's partially about prices. It's partially about scarcity. It's partially about lack of diversity of housing stock. But whatever it is, right? People trying to downsize, not having anywhere to go. We have sort of a locked up housing market still. A real challenge in getting people to move in. And I want to be clear. A big part of our competitive advantage over the last couple decades was the ability to move people in, often when they were getting ready to start a family. Like a lot of suburban communities, we struggle with that 20 to 29-year-old group, right? They wander off to the city and do cool things. Some of them, like Kayla, make the mistake of going to Springfield to do it. Yeah. But most of them go to cooler cities and then come back when it is time to start a family. And it's just been harder for them to do that. And it's led to something. I'm sharing this with you. I realize that not everybody might be able to see the screen, so I'm just going to kind of talk about this for a minute. This is K through 12 enrollment in Will County's public schools. It's down about 11,000, or about 10% over the course of the last 7 years. When I talked about our labor force being bigger than it's ever been and where that population come from, it's this. We've lost K through 12 kids, and some of them grown up and are in the labor force today. This is something, this should be the most concerning thing I talk about today. And before you say to yourself, oh, Doug, it's 110,000 students. It was one district. It was one big group. This is 24 of our 29 public school districts around the county lost population over this time. And only one added an appreciable amount of population. It was Manhattan Elementary. What's up, Manhattan? Great job. Added a lot. They grew there. But almost every other one that grew was a very small district, very small thing. So I spend a lot of time talking about community and growth and making connections in the educational space. This is the most important factor in our future, and it's down. So what do we do about it? All right? How do we start working on fixing this? The CED has launched a Will County housing study. We're under contract for it. We're underway. The data pull is happening right now. Thank you to the communities who have shared your information with us as we start to build this. Simply put, it's enough talking about this, and it's really time to do the work of determining where demand is, how we meet it, how we find places for people who want to build a future here in Will County. The object of this is not to tell communities what to do, quite the opposite. We want to provide a framework. We want to discuss opportunity. We want to share the realities of the demand for our future. And we want to provide a set of best practices that will help us build the community that we want to build in the future. And I do want to take a minute. I know a lot of you are in this room to thank the steering committee for partnering with us on this, for helping set the table, helping us ask the right questions. This work will continue much more in earnest in January, but Elaine Bottomley, Hugh O'Hara, Diana Viveros, Nora Grunberg, Cornell Lurie, Lisa Williams, and Jim Mark. I know he's in here, and he's an idea factory. Love that guy. Thank you to all of you. I know you have enough unpaid jobs, and I know that we ask a lot of you. Thank you for partnering with us on this and helping us start this process of a data-driven approach to improving the situation here and continuing to grow the important things for Will County. Just a couple housing projects. We spent a lot of time on projects at our mid-year event. Promise that we'll come back, but there are just a couple that I want to touch on today. City of Joliet went a long time without a meaningful multifamily project, so I do want to give credit for the view at Rock Run. Ultimately, 500 units at 55 and 80. And if you haven't driven that in a while, man, what a change out there at that interchange. And that is up and vertical. Our friends from New Lenox are in the room. Tearling Lakes, just a massive project. I want to say 490 in total, 210 age restricted. And you might think, age restricted is, it's limiting. Age restricted is fabulous. We need places for people to age in place, and every time somebody moves out of that 4-bedroom, 2,800 square foot house, it creates an opportunity for somebody to move in and start their life in Will County. It's too big of a room to call people out when they leave, right? Okay. The port in Lockport, I know Mayor is here today. What a cool project. We've talked about this before. I think it's 32 units right in the heart of downtown Lockport, steps from a metro stop. Talk about doing it in a cool way, right? So really cool project. It's out there. It's leasing now. It's not cheap. None of this stuff is cheap. But really, really cool project, and excited to see that. A few other projects that I just want to touch on, again, at 55 and 80, the Hollywood Casino grand opening. These guys have been at this for a while. They've been part of the community for a while. So excited to see them open. I know revenues are up, which is great news for them. And really cool place, cool event venue. We've had meetings out there. Check it out if you haven't already. A little bit of medical in the works. This is strictly gratuitous. Silver Cross opened a new place in Crest Hill this year. I went there this week, so it's in the presentation. Good job, Silver Cross. I got good care. But very, very cool. University of Chicago, Bolingbrook Hospital, Advent Health, broke ground on their new cath lab. For those of you that don't know what this is a $21 million investment in their footprint, 15,000 square feet, new cath lab, better care, improving quality of care in North County. These guys have been fabulous partners. I know some of you are in the room today. That was a really fun event. Thank you for bringing us out and sharing that moment and growth. I got to give a lot of love to City Square in the city of Joliet. Krista, I think this is your picture, and I should probably credit you for that. I stole it without permission, but here we are. City Square looks great. It's just a fabulous meeting place right across the street from the Rialto in downtown Joliet. They hosted their tree lighting there last weekend. fabulous event, but it was way too cold for me to go out and get pictures of that, so you get this picture. It's fine. Thank you, Krista, for that. But cool project. Our partners from New Lenox are in the room. Again, Wintrust Crossroads Sport Complex, open. If you want to see a bunch of parents hanging out, that's the place to go. It's so busy. Every weekend is booked. And I do have to say, this project was a risk for New Lenox, and they made the investment, they took the chance, and the amount of interest and energy around this project that's already happening is extraordinary. They've got an awesome team there that does a good job managing this and carrying it forward, and this is right next to Silver Cross's campus, an area that's been dying to really take off. This is the catalyst, and I think if they would have asked me 4 years ago, I'd have been like, I don't know. But fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Well done, New Lenox, on that front. And then East County, Voortman Steel. I talked about this before. Voortman is a steel manufacturer based in the Netherlands. Had a smaller space here in Moni. They are building their new North American headquarters and production facility in East County. I went out there a couple weeks ago. The progress is fabulous. We're continuing to see growth out there. These are just little snippets, right? A lot of quality of life, continuing to see growth in manufacturing. There are a couple of other manufacturing projects that I really wanted to announce today. We'll catch you in a very short period of time. But we continue to see the investment and the growth and sort of what's happening out here. If you want to see more projects, I should just say, while I'm here, on your table, you don't have the full 16-page annual report this year. That was a conscious choice. We are trying to be a little more environmentally sound by only giving you 6 pages of this stuff. But there is a QR code on the back of that document. You can scan it. It will take you to the full annual report on our website. If you do need a printed version for inside your team, by all means, let us know. We'll get it to you. But that is already out there, ready and waiting for you. So I will close with a little bit of the work that the CED has been doing. First things first, new investors for 2025. Kayla is doing an amazing, amazing job in this space. But I've got to say, I talk about this a lot. Yeah, I'm talking right to you now. We're so lucky to do what we do where we do it, right? For me, chasing projects, being competitive, there's no place better to do it than Will County. For community support and partnerships, it's been extraordinary. And just thank everyone so much for your partnership and support over the years. And to the folks that are new with us and here in this room today, thank you for being here. Walk around the room. Almost everybody's friendly, and I will point out the ones that aren't. Just let me know. Looking at you, Kip. But it's a fantastic group, and thank you for being with us. Size Up. Size Up is part of our specific commitment to continue supporting the small business and existing business groups within Will County. Size Up is something we rolled out in 2025. It is a free service to Will County businesses available on our website now. You can scan the QR code or link from our website. It's an incredibly valuable tool if you're looking to explore or build new markets in the region. It has a built-in small business advisor that can help identify customers, competitors, suppliers, where your markets are, so much more. I don't know, Fausto, are you in here? Oh, over. Also hanging out in the corner. I apologize for my people. Just chilling in the corners of the room. Fausto did an amazing job rolling this out. Thank you to our university partners, JJC EBC, who partnered with us on the rollout for this. Thank you. It's a cool tool. Again, it's out there now, free. Supplier Connection, another new 2025 initiative for us. This is something we were asked for by our businesses. The state of Illinois runs the Business Enterprise Program, which provides essentially a list of qualified minority, women, veteran, and disabled person-owned businesses. What we found is it probably didn't go deep enough, at least here in Will County. This is an opportunity for folks to self-identify, get on this list, and be more visible as vendor partners for companies around Will County. Just as importantly, for those of you who are looking to connect with these sort of vendors, this is available. It's free. Reach out to us. We're happy to share the list with you. We are continuing to work to build. So community partners, if you have somebody in your community that you think would be a good fit for this, please let us know. BRE program, again, Fausto, out talking to the businesses. Look, this serves a simple purpose, right? We are working hard to connect with companies that are already here to identify growth opportunities, but also potential challenges that might be out there or barriers to growth for the county. If you know of a small business, if you're a community, you're maybe worried about a company you haven't had contact in a while, please reach out. Let us chase them down and make those connections to try to grow things. Our Brownfield grant is going to be wrapping up. We are extended into 2026, and I'm excited to say we currently have 8 properties underway, receiving federal dollars to begin the cleanup process and ultimately work toward putting these sites back in active use. We still have a little bit of funding and time left, so if you are aware of a property that might benefit from this, please reach out to us and let us explore that. I'm going to close with the internship program. I know that you have been bombarded with internship program information, solicitations. Look, why do we do this? Actually, you know what? I know some of you have seen this video before. Watch it again. This is the work of strengthening a community and the connections within it.
And that's the exact heart of this program, to help you all explore careers, to connect you with mentors, and to show you that there are meaningful, exciting, and rewarding careers right here in Will County.
Going in, I didn't have any expectations at all. I had no clue what to expect. But after this experience, I learned that I do indeed like talking to people, right? It took a little bit to get out of my shell, but I feel like I learned so much more than I could have imagined.
When I was this age, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but if I got options to see what I could do, I think it helps expand the mind of where people want to go in the future.
I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was older. All I knew is that I wanted to help people, and it gave me a light towards the career path that I wanted.
Speaking as someone whose own intern experience was a straight line into the job I have now, getting that valuable work experience, that immersion, if you will, is invaluable.
We are in the automotive repair business. Our largest months are June and July. It's hard to staff for those peaks, given that we have valleys that follow it. And so having this internship really filled a gap that we needed.
Now students lots of times are involved in their own activities and don't get that experience and exposure. So these types of programs allow students to experience different things, see what they like, and maybe see what they don't like.
This experience helped me learn how to work with other people. And so I feel like that communication skill was one of the biggest things I learned.
The students have to create a resume, they have to go through an interview, and this is all going to help them in their future career goals.
People underestimate what high schoolers are capable of, so I feel like through the CED, they give us that experience that's going to help us throughout our whole lives.
I would most certainly recommend the CED's internship program to any business. You learn so much from these young people.
The CED is such a great resource for this community. The thoughtfulness that was put into this program, we knew exactly what to expect, and I'm so grateful for that.
We would absolutely participate in the program again.
100% do it, don't even think about it.
Yes, we'd like to participate again.
We've had a great experience with the last 2 years doing so, and we definitely recommend, participating in the program.
Do it. I don't care if you don't think that you want to do it, do it.
I would highly recommend the program, and we plan to participate for as long as the CED will let us.
So that was sort of our last year wrap up for that space. As we look at 2025, which was year 2 of the program, we roughly doubled it. Right? We grew the program from, I think, 38 students in year 1 to 75 jobs in year 2 of the program. We've been recruiting aggressively. I know I have at least one friend in the room who has asked me a few times, like, if I hire somebody, will you leave me alone? Yeah, I will. But do it. So we've collected all of the information for 2026, and I can say we have gone from 38 available positions for high school students to 75 to, in 2026, based on what all of you in this room has done, 160 paid internships for high school students in the summer of 2026. I do want to say, I know a lot of you are in this room, and I know you've been sitting here for a while, and I'm keeping you from meetings or restroom or wherever else it is that you need to be. But I'm going to take a moment and just indulge. Employers, past, present, future, who are in the room, would you mind standing for me? And if nobody stands, I'm going to look terrible. Y'all, for real. Please stand, employers who are in the room. Thank you so much for your support, for your belief in these kids, for your willingness to do this with us. As I said, this is something, look, we built it from scratch. Kayla has put so much time and energy into this, and I'm quite confident we've built the largest program of its kind in the state. I'm proud of it. It's being modeled in other places, in other communities. It's been presented at multiple academic conferences. This thing works. It makes connections for employers and kids and helps us build community. At the end of the day, that's what this is about. The goal of all of this work, everything we're doing, is simple. We're trying to make Will County the most attractive and competitive place for continued investment and growth that we possibly can. That covers a lot of territory. There are a lot of things we do, and none of it is possible without the support and guidance of everyone in this room. It's never lost on us. Not a day goes by, it can't as a nonprofit, not a day goes by that it is you who make this work possible. And as I said at the top, no matter what's happening at the national level, Will County has the talent and the assets to compete. We've been incredibly fortunate to be the economic leaders for the state of Illinois, but a time of leadership is not a time to rest. Now is the time that we leverage these competitive advantages, continue our work, and continue building communities and investments that are going to be home and workplace for the future generations that we bring here today. So thank you again so much for all of your support in making this happen. Thank you for an incredible 2025. Thank you, Jim, for the woots. Everybody have a fabulous holiday. Thank you for being here.